Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We are your hosts, Kristen and Karan. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble.
Today, we're chatting with Chloe Coxall. Chloe is a mom of three, bushcraft, outdoor activity, and shooting instructor who is passionate about teaching children the survival skills we've lost. Chloe, you've been charting your own course and following your inner compass for a while now, and we would love to hear what started you on your pirate journey and led you to where you are today.
Okay, so basically my journey is a very long and very rough one, rough and smooth, bit like literally being a pirate on a boat. So growing up, I had an autoimmune disease. I spent a lot of time in hospital in intensive care and lost a lot of weight. So I've got like Crohn's disease. So I didn't have a normal childhood. I had quite a rough childhood with my mum. I ended up living with my mum and my stepmom and my dad, and I spent a lot of my childhood in and out of hospital, sort of whilst they were poking and prodding and trying to figure out what was going on with me. And then as I kind of grew up, I then found sort of peace outside, shall we say. I found it relaxing outside. I enjoyed being outside and spending that time outside. And I'm really passionate about my kids having the same feeling, really, having that escape, being able to have a home from home and kind of relax in nature, and just there's no pressure, there's no society you have to conform to, there's no tick boxes, there's no right or wrong. Even you can just be yourself, do what you want in the forest. So I'm really keen on making sure that their childhood is filled with that, because that was my release when I was kind of growing up. Then actually into adult life, that became more of a release for me as well. So unfortunately, I was in a really abusive marriage for 8 years in total, and it took a long time. It does take a long time with these things for me to finally break away from this marriage, which I have done now, and it's all good. My sanctuary throughout this marriage and still to this day is the woods. It is the forest. It is because you're in your own secret environment. You again, there's no pressure. There's nobody that's going to appear if you don't want them to. You can get lost if you want to. You can sit and no one's going to judge you for sitting there for half an hour and doing absolutely nothing, because sometimes we need that break. We need that emotional, mental kind of break. And also I think with sort of society and the way it's been built and stuff like that, our children have lost a lot of skills, not just hands-on sort of fire lighting or shelter building or foraging or IDing a tree or whatever, but they've lost the ability to realize how resilient they are. And I think that's why it's so important for us as adults as well as the children to realize that, push our boundaries, build up our resilience, build that self-confidence, push those boundaries and take those risks, so that we do realize that we can do it. And then once we have done it, there's this massive empowering, like, yes, I did that, and it just gets you another level up and another level up, and you just keep building up that way. I think so. That's a massive kind of I suppose a drive behind what I do and why I'm doing it, for my own personal reasons, but I want others to be able to see how it helps, how it benefits.
So going back to like when you were younger, how did you like discover kind of the magic of the forest? Was it close by and you just wandered in, or was there someone that took you camping, or like how was that kind of discovery process?
So we were lucky enough that with my dad and my dad's business that we've always had access to outdoor activities. We've always been very practical children. I remember my dad, like all of us could drive by the time we were like 12, because and like tow trailers, and I remember my brothers and like growing up, and there'd be full grown men, and my little brothers would be sort of out driving them and stuff like that. So we were really lucky that my dad taught us loads of practical skills, and he kind of introduced us to the industry, shall we say, of being outdoors. And then that just kind of opened all these other doors, because we were always out with him, we were always outside with him. And to be honest with you, the big thing for me was as silly as it might sound, was leaves blowing in the wind. Because it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the forest, whether you're, from my point of view, you're led in a hospital bed, you can look out that window and you can tell so much just by seeing that tree, or seeing is it windy today, or the leaves are blowing, and that's almost like a like watching a crackling fire. It's something that draws you in. You can sit and watch it and get lost in your thoughts, and it takes you away to a different place of not. So from my point of view, if I was led in Southampton Hospital, which was quite a regular occurrence, I could be looking out the window, looking at the trees, and it would take me to that forest where I may have gone walking with Dad between sort of jobs or whatever, or my nan and granddad. They lived in a beautiful house, which had its own sort of little woodland at the bottom. And don't get me wrong, they weren't sort of massively wealthy. They worked very, very hard, and that paid off, because they had a beautiful house with this little sort of woodland. And I just remember growing up, we would just play in this woods all the time, whenever we could. We would never be in the garden, and it would always be down in the woods. And my granddad actually had a cabin built when he had someone come and thin the woods. He had this cabin built for us, only tiny, like a little Wendy house sort of thing. And I just, so all these little intros of just dog walks with friends or family, or playing in the woods at nan and granddad's, or sort of between venues, at different venues, sorry, between jobs with Dad when we could escape, or even right down to just being in a room and being able to look out the window and see that tree, which would then take me to that place, which I found sanctuary. I just found it a sort of something that helped me relax, found it something that put me at ease, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love a lot of what you say. I mean, the forest is definitely where I would say like my sanctuary. And Kristen's heard me complain, my last house that I lived in was like the end of my block was the forest, and now it's not. Now I'm in like a soulless house by the highway. But just having that, like, one of the things that I've noticed moving away from that area is I find there's a constant noise now. Even though it's like quote unquote quiet, I feel like I can always hear cars or something, versus like that, the sounds of nature. And so like for me, the part of that sanctuary is the silence. And even though it's not silent, because you still would hear like the birds, and maybe like where we had a river, so you would hear the river and you would have the birds, but it was just a different kind of noise that was very calming. And I find when I'm away from it for too long, the noise of like the world almost kind of puts me on edge, and I need to have that silence. Is there like a specific thing like that for you that is really kind of paramount for your relaxation time when you're in the woods?
Yeah, I think going back to kind of what you were saying about, so living in a built up area, it's quite noisy. You can always hear a car, you can hear this. It's funny because that for people that live there quite regularly, that to them it's probably quite quiet. They're used to it. We accommodate it, don't we? We get so used to hearing it that we find an ease, shall we say, in hearing it. Whereas for us and for myself, the forest or the woods, whichever you choose to be in, are so noisy, but it's a great noise. It's a almost like a white noise to a baby. It's a real soothing noise, and actually I find it has got a massive element of kind of being able to ground you by hearing these noises. You take that time, you hear that bird, you stop, you listen, you hear those leaves blowing in the trees, you stop, you watch it. You hear a crack of something, you kind of tend to turn and see what it is, or the creaking of trees as they're blowing in the wind. Absolutely love that sound. So cool. So cool. And all those little things, or like the sound of your feet sort of walking across leaves and stuff like that. And so I find, to me, that it is similar to that of white noise for a baby, really. Like, it is, I find it grounds me massively, like really grounds me, and I kind of walk into it and I gather all those sounds, and then obviously it makes the other senses wake up as well. So I'm smelling things, I'm hearing things, I'm seeing things, and it almost like I draw power from all of these things, and it just puts me in this real calm, relaxed state of mind where and then I've just, everything else is forgotten. You can really just take a breath, take it all in, and you're so busy concentrating on those noises that the other stuff that might be going on in here or in your heart or whatever just seems to take a back seat for a minute. And then I find that by doing that and listening to those sounds, you're calming yourself naturally. And so when I'm stressed or something's bothering me, when I'm put in that situation and I listen to those noises and take that time, I can handle the situation so much better, so much better, because it's like a natural sort of calming thing, shall we say.
So do you live out in woods near nature now so that you can get there whenever, or do you have a way to escape and get away whenever you want to?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky in that I live in a very rural location. We live on a little estate, and actually it's 2 cottages. There's a big main house down the bottom, and then there's 2 cottages, and we're basically surrounded by fields and little sort of bits of woodland which we can access. We've got some beautiful water meadows and a wood down the bottom of the road, literally a stone's throw away, which we can access. And then there is loads of beautiful sort of public woodland surrounding us. And then I've got the site which we operate from, which is kind of sort of, we've got access to about 120 acres, some of which is, public bridle path and stuff like that, but some of which hasn't been touched for years. It's completely untouched, and it's that kind of forest that I love, because there's no trace there. There's nothing to tell you who was the last person here. Has there even been anyone here for however many hundreds of years? You can kind of judge a little bit of sort of the ground or the trees around you and stuff, but I just love the sort of the cleanness of it, the fact that you can walk into it and you're the one that is sort of making a mark, however not leaving any sort of trace, obviously. I do. So yeah, I've got loads of woodland around me. I'm very, very lucky, and I do make use of all of it, so it's great.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing.
So I've been for years on and off. I have been an outdoor activity instructor, and that's ranging from clay shooting to quad biking to buggies to other shooting activities. We've got like a wide range of stuff that we've always done. My dad's really, really sort of well known in the industry. He works for a really successful company, and so we've kind of been brought up doing that kind of thing. So we've always had our hand in that. And then with everything that I had going on, I felt that need, that craving, that I needed the forest. I needed to be in the forest. And at the time I wasn't working, wasn't allowed to work, I wasn't allowed to do anything, but I could go and escape in the forest because there was nobody else there, and I could kind of get away with, I'm going to walk the dogs, or I'm going for a walk with the kids, and that was my way of kind of escaping into that. So I went on to do my Bushcraft Qualifications, which there's still more to do, because within that kind of industry, you're always learning, you're always bettering yourself. It's always trial and error. I don't think I know any kind of bushcraft and survival instructors that would ever turn around and say, yes, I know everything, because they're all very humble, and they all say, no, we're learning every day. That's all part of it. So basically, I wanted to see, I kind of reached this point in my life where I was like, this is my life now. I can do anything I want. I can go and qualify in anything I want. I can do whatever I want. So I did go down the path of getting qualifications to be a bushcraft and survival instructor. And I love teaching my kids. I'm so passionate about teaching the next generation. I think that I always remember a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine now, first met my little boy, my middle son, Ralph, and he was 3 at the time. And Ralph was walking around with an axe. And I remember this guy kind of looking, and you could see in his eyes, you know, he was nervous. He was nervous as to why this 3-year-old was missioning around in his wellies with an axe on. And then my kids are quite confident. They never were previously, but this has come out a lot over the past sort of couple of years. And I always remember he was like, do you want to watch me cut something up with an axe? And this guy, who's a great friend of mine now, was literally like, is this okay? And I was like, it's fine, honestly, like, it's cool, chill. And he was so on edge. And anyway, and my son kind of lined they've got stumps that they're splitting on, and he had his axe and he was holding his axe properly, and his feet were like, everything was how I taught him to a T. He did so well. And then he kind of puts his hand up. That's his thing, right? Is he puts his hand up to point, to say, that's where I'm going to hit that log. And he did. And honestly, this guy, who has become a really good friend of mine, was blown away. He was literally like what? And so then he's a photographer, and so he then spent the whole time when he was supposed to be at a business meeting with my dad. No, he spent the whole time photographing and videoing my 3-year-old son, because he was so blown away about how he was so relaxed with the tools he was using, and how I was so relaxed. But I think that is the key. I mean, there's so many dangerous things that can be placed in our hands, and our children's hands, but it's all about the user, isn't it? It's all about knowing how to use the tool that's put into your hand, or having the correct PPE or whatever. And so I've just drilled it in from a young age into my boys that, you know, you're in control of that. If you know, this is how you alleviate that potential risk, but also sometimes taking those risks when they overswing and might slip into the log round that the splitting log is sat on, and they realize, oh, I overswung it then, what did I do wrong? They then work out what the problem is and they fix it, and they learn from that. And I think, so I'm really passionate about teaching the next generation, because I do think, and I mean, my eldest son, George, who's 10, he is like gaming obsessed. And you would think that he has a games console. He doesn't, because I will not give in to it. I can't. He has access to them when he goes to other people's and stuff like that. But I just, no, he's not having one. And I want him, that's the trouble with it. I think children have just, they are, and I know the world is growing with technology. We all have to keep up with it, and technology has done some amazing things, but also I think it's done a lot of damaging things. And I think, I mean, we're using technology now to be able to do this, so I'm not knocking it, but I think our older skills, our survival skills, are just as important. Having the ability to ID a tree, having the ability to ID whether something is poisonous if consumed or not, or touched even, having the knowledge to be able to light a fire, build a shelter, know how to get water. And I think those are things, or like natural navigation, I think those are things that we as humans have lost massively. And I think it's really important that we gain those skills again, but not just from the point of view of having that hands-on skill, but just to make you realize that you can do these things. It's very empowering. It's very it encourages people to take risks, and when they do, it just makes them realize that they can do it. And it's better than any sort of prescription drug or therapy or anything like that. I think it's realizing that you can do it, and then when you do it. And so from young to old, I'm very passionate about helping people to realize that by doing these, what we may see as quite simple things, to say, for example, a couple that have lived in a town most of their life, they have got very standard jobs in offices or whatever, all of a sudden to put them well out of their comfort zone and put them in a situation where they've got to learn to survive the weekend will bring them stronger, bring them closer together, help them realize that they can do all these things, and it's guaranteed they would come away from that. I mean, it would be make or break, let's face it, but that's the same with any situation. It's either going to go one way or the other. They'll either get on really well or they'll hate each other. But you know what? They've saved themselves potentially 10 years of or more of rubbish, because if you can't pull together and get through something like that, then maybe it's not meant to be. But yeah, no, I think it is. So that's kind of led me on to what I'm doing now. So I am basically setting up a bushcraft and survival school that will cater for everybody. It will cater to your normal families or single people or a group of friends or whatever that want to come and learn some skills and just spend some time in the woods, just enjoy themselves, have some fun. And then alongside that, I want to set up support groups to help sort of, I hate the term survivor, because a domestic violence survivor is a very big label, I think, to put on anyone. And I don't think you're a survivor at all. You're a thriver. You've nailed it. You've got through it. If anyone has lived to tell that tale and got through it, you're more than a survivor. And I don't like that term, but a support group to kind of help people that are going through various things, because there is so much sort of anesthetic that can be found being in the woods, mentally, emotionally, physically, and so I'm really passionate about people seeing that and realizing that, and it's also introducing them to others, so it's a good way of networking people that are like-minded. So yeah, that's kind of one side of it. And then the other side of it is sort of a forest school, because I have been there myself and I have seen mums and dads or carers that have got young children, and it's hard, man, it's really hard. And even whether you've got money issues or not, whether you've got loads of support or not, it can still be a very, very lonely, hard process to go through. And so I'm quite passionate about starting up sort of a 4-tier system, shall we say, with kind of the first tier being that support group for like a baby group, like a toddler group, but it's with an extra spin on it. There's no judgments, there's no walking into the village hall with everybody turning around and staring at you and sort of cliquey parents and things like that. It's going to be a cup of tea by the fire, the kids can play, mums chat, dads chat, and everybody is a real relaxed, no pressured environment that everyone can learn those natural skills. Because I think chuck anyone, a handful of people, regardless of gender, age, what they do, religion, chuck anyone around a campfire and you just watch that therapy just appear, them just naturally happen, because people talk, people relax, people get a lot from it, I think, and they don't realize it until they've done it. And then I want to go for sort of like a preschool system, where we have sort of the younger ones. So in theory that would cover my youngest son, who's 2. He's currently in a preschool, and his preschool is absolutely great because his preschool leader is a forest school trained sort of leader, shall we say. So she can do it, but she's not got the facilities there to do it. So I'm really hoping that she'll be part of the team, to be honest, because she's great, and I would love to have her on board so that we can kind of cover the younger ones. And then I've got another lady who is helping me too, who's a homeschooler. So we're going to go for sort of another system that will be open to homeschoolers that need a bit of R&R. Yeah, sort of that school starting age through to sort of 12, should we say. And it is just to get those children kind of out of school to realize that they can still follow a curriculum, but just outdoors they can still sit at a table and learn something. They can, instead of, you know, sitting at a desk in four walls, 30 children kind of doing that, why can't you have sort of a handful of them sat around the fire carving whilst talking about poetry, or going through a maths lesson? It's just a different setting. You can still teach the same thing, but just in a different setting, because you know what, kids are there's no two people the same in this world. How can you expect 10 kids to sit in a room and all learn exactly the same way? They don't. And I think, I mean, it's quite bold of me to say, but I do think like the school system is massively failing our children, because we're expecting them all to do the same thing. We're expecting them to all tick these boxes, and they don't. They just don't. And the trouble is, when they don't conform, they're labeled. They've got ADHD, they're naughty, they've got social anxiety, they've got eating disorders, they've got this, they've got that. And they're so busy kind of throwing all these labels at these children, instead of just calming down, I think, and just taking a moment to go, actually, do you know what? Little Jimmy Smith is playing up in class because he's bored. He needs a different approach. He just needs a different way of learning. And I know, again, with my own children, I see it with them, which is what gives me the absolute, all the drive I need, really, is I want to help all the local children, obviously, that need it. But my main drive is the fact that my 3 children need it. You know, my children haven't been given any labels or anything like that, but my eldest son, he does struggle at school. He really does, because he is bored. He doesn't want to sit still for 6 hours a day and scribble on bits of paper. Whereas verbally, he'll stand up in front of 30 adults and give a speech, no problem at all. It's just he needs a different approach. So I'm very passionate about that. And I think with the older children, so the last tier as such would be the sort of 12 plus. And at present, I currently work with children sort of aged 12 and above. They're sort of the ages we're getting it in at the minute are sort of 14, 15, 16. And I'm seeing these children that, so for example, not breaching any data protection or anything. I have one, I'm going to change the gender as well, just to be on the safe side, and just to completely throw it out there. Yeah, so we're going to have, so we've got one female that has been kicked out of state school, public school, because she has an eating disorder and social anxiety. And she's then been thrown into an AP school, so an alternative provision school, with some of the worst children in the Southwest. You know, these children are hard as nails, and quite right too, because when you hear and see what they've been through, you get why they're like it. But then you've got someone like this female that has been thrown into this situation. So she's now gone down the route of drink, drugs, bad behavior. She never had that to start off with. But basically the states, you know, the state school, the public school went, we can't deal with this. We haven't got the funding. We haven't got the manpower. And so I want to put something in place that when that happens, I'll take them and I will teach them, and my team will teach them to get them through their GCSEs, to get them through whatever it is they need to learn. Because I don't see why they can't follow a curriculum outside, learning so much else to add to it. There's so much more that you can tie into these lessons to engage the children and make them hands-on, and you know, regardless of sort of, people are saying, you know, children are overweight, they're eating too much sugar, they're this, they're that. Well, if they're outside learning, they're moving more, they're eating less, they're drinking more. Because I know myself with my children, I'm hungry. No, you're not, you're thirsty. Because the kids do, don't they? They instantly go for food. And actually sometimes we do as adults go, oh, I'm hungry. No, I'm not, I'm thirsty. So I just think it is crazy that there isn't a massive sort of backed sort of program, shall we say, that works alongside schools like an AP, but in an outdoor setting. There's a handful of forest schools. There's a handful of sort of AP situations that similar to the one that I sort of teach myself. So the children come in from the school to us into the bushcraft setting, and then we teach them. I'm just really surprised that there isn't something more kind of working in schools, along schools, an outdoor activity leader, or like a job role within schools or within the council that sort of go to these schools and say, right, what are we doing about outdoor education? Okay, we've got a handful of children here that need, alternative provision because then they misbehave, they've got behavior issues, they've got this, they've got that. Well, instead, why can we not deal with that, but within the school setting, but in an outdoor or a local forest setting? I just think there is a massive gap there, and I've seen it with my own children, which is why I'm so passionate about setting up sort of the woodland school, which will run alongside sort of Ragnarok. So obviously the business name as such, which we're going with, is Ragnarok Wild Skills, and then alongside, which will be our sort of bushcraft and survival stuff, and then we're going to have the woodland school that's going to run alongside that to help the local children, and hopefully it will be a successful program. However we sort of get there, we will get there, and then if we look to go further afield, we will. But at the minute, I'm super keen on helping my own children and friends of my own children and local schools, and starting with that, really. So that's where I'm at. I'm kind of going for that.
So much there, so much good, so much gold. I love your school idea, and if I had something like that, I'd still be teaching. There's something that came to mind. There were a lot of things that came to mind while you were talking, but when you were talking about your 3-year-old throwing the axe, I remembered two things. Like, first, my nephew, when he was 5, my brother and my dad were letting him saw, and I was like, why are you letting him do that? He's only 5. He could cut something, like he could hurt himself. And now looking back, I'm like, no, this is a good thing. We should be teaching kids how to properly use the tools, because they're going to get hurt from us protecting them from using them, not from us teaching them how to use them. I mean, they could still get hurt, but not, it's going to be a lot less likely than if they pick up a saw, having no idea how to use it, and just start sawing or hitting or doing whatever with it. So it's so cool. And then I realized as well, like, what the other thing that popped in my mind was, being a child growing up in the 80s in the US, we were basically told everything will kill us. So there were all these TV shows about, like, if you mow the lawn, you might chop off your foot. If you do this, you might lose an arm. Like, body parts are falling off like crazy on the TV shows. and I'm realizing, like, fear was built in as a child in the 80s to do any of those things, because I could lose body parts if I touch any of this stuff. So you teaching kids those survival skills is so powerful and so important. And realizing now what we've done to ourselves because we've been afraid to learn any of that, due to the fact that the TV shows and movies told us that we could lose body parts if we did anything brave or scary or even normal. So.
When we first moved to Canada, we lived up north. And it just reminded me, for my 5th birthday, I got a 22 rifle. And so my dad would take me out shooting in the back of the woods. And, as a kid, obviously it's not like I slept with it in my bedroom or anything like that. It was, but he taught me how to shoot and how, like, basic gun safety. And so here I was as a 5-year-old living up north, where people had guns, because it was a very small town. There were a lot of bears and cougars and all of the other things. And, giving, as a child, having that healthy respect and understanding of firearms versus, like, people I still know now are, like, very fearful of firearms, right? So it's just little things like that I was, like, very grateful for as a small child, getting that understanding and that education and that experience, which so everything that you say is like really resonating with me with, what we need to teach the children. Yeah, it's very cool.
I think it's that whole, like, it's an understanding as well with your father teaching you to use a firearms. You could grow up and actually turn around and say, I'm not bothered about shooting, but he's taught you that skill of and therefore you understand it and you respect it. You're not frightened of it. There's no fear there. So it just puts you in such a better situation that you understand it. And I think that's another big issue is people are frightened of stuff because they don't understand them or so like with my children, they may grow up and want to be a banker in the middle of London or something like that, and they'll never touch an axe, but they also won't be frightened of it, and they have the ability to pick it up or put it down or actually explain to others how to use it properly or to pick up on others if they're not respecting the tool that they're using and advise them to prevent any accidents happening and things like that. And I think that's really great. I think that any parents kind of give any children, whether it's firearms, using an axe or a saw or whatever, it's just giving them that little bit of life skills and just teaching them to respect something and understand it.
Yeah. And then another thing that you were talking about that reminded me of another story is just camping a couple summers ago. And I was with my partner, and we just had our little campsite set up, and there was a group of girls across the way, and you could see them struggling, kind of chuckle a little bit as it takes them, couple hours to put their tents up. They wander over in the evening and they ask my partner, like, can you just help us build a fire? Because they couldn't get a fire going. And so like I was like, I got this, right? And just going over and actually teaching them how to split the wood, because like you can't just put giant logs of fire and expect them to burn, and teaching them how to set up the fire and to keep it going throughout the night. And then I remember the next day just being so proud of them watching from our campsite that they built their own fire. Like I was like, oh,
how great is that?
Yeah. Right. And then that's like, it's not a huge thing. It took me like 15 minutes, but just to like see, you could see from even from where we were, like, how proud they were of themselves the next day for building their own fire and like accomplishing that. So I love how you it's just the confidence that people get when they have they accomplish a new skill, right? Which is really cool.
It is. It's totally cool. And actually it's nice for you as well, for you guys to be able to go, we've done that. We've taught those people, and look how proud they are of themselves, and look how lovely this whole situation is. And so, yeah, it's a win-win for both. Definitely, I think.
Yeah. We had talked about starting a, learn to camp program for women. And then COVID happened. It was, right before COVID. But it's still something that plays in my mind, as like, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
women only, right? Get together, learn to camp, learn to build your own fire, how to put up a tent in less than 2 hours.
So your partner is your partner male or female?
Yeah.
So in theory, those group of girls approached your partner. So again, it's that thing of like presuming because you're a man, can you light that fire? And of course you stepped up and went, no, I've got this. So again, that's so great and so much sort of punch for what you want to do, because that's clearly something that needs to get out there to go, actually, do you know what? Women can do this. I'm a woman. I'm teaching you to do this. You don't have to presume that a man can do that. And actually the ratio sometimes that I get of groups, women learn, men are great in all their ways, but women learn a lot quicker, and they seem to pick it up a lot quicker and stuff like that, which is great. It really is great, because I think for a man it's pressure that they should know this skill. How can they not know this skill? They're a man, kind of thing. So for them it's a bit of pressure. It's a bit like, oh god, I need to learn this skill. I should be able to do this if I conform to society as such. And yeah, I think it's really great when I do get two people, male and female, and they both are in the same situation, and the male completely gets rid of that pressure because he's done it, he's nailed it, and the woman actually finds a lot of confidence and empowerment because she goes, do you know what, I've done it too, kind of thing. And then it's great because they could both go off and you know, camp and light fires, and they've got it covered, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, we actually have, our province has a program called Becoming an Outdoors Woman, which is really cool that it's like a provincially, you know, funded, government funded program that I just found out about recently from one of my clients at the gym. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's on pause right now because, you know, COVID, everything's on pause. But it's definitely something that like sparked my interest to like look into once they start up again. I think it was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is really cool.
I have a friend that I met this past spring, which she would talk about. I lived out in the woods for, I think she said like 3 months, lived out in the woods in a cabin all by myself in the winter, had to take care of everything myself. And anytime she talked about their survival skills that she learned and how she would get excited about potentially teaching other people, I'm like, yes, please, I would love to learn some of this. I need more of you in my life because these are skills that I need and so many other people need too. So yeah, being able to hear, especially when it's women too, that are like, here's this skill I learned, because men, men are taught it a little bit more, where women have been taught to stay home, cook, do this. So when you hear it from other women, like I can go out in the woods and I can fend for myself and I know how to do all these skills. Like that's so empowering, and I need more of that.
There's this is like totally on an aside. If anyone's interested, I just finished reading a book. It's fiction, but it was called The Forest of Vanishing Stars. And it's for this young girl who was raised in the woods. And this was happening during World War II. And basically she ends up like helping and teaching a group of Jewish people that fled some of the ghettos to survive for a couple of years in the woods during the war. And it's a brilliant book. I read it in like 2 days. I couldn't put it down.
Oh, wow.
But she teaches them how to, how to make shelters like in the summer, and then shelters for the winter, how to like you said, identify which berries you can eat or which you can't, how to clean up your camp so that there is no trace of them, so people can't find them, other trackers. So it was a brilliant book, The Forest of the Vanishing Stars, if anyone wants
I would
a good novel.
Look for that.
Yeah. Anyways, as an aside, it's very related to what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you've told us about a lot of the stuff that you've done or that you're wanting to do. I would love to hear what some of those bold actions that you've taken in your life to get you to where you are now. What are some of those bold actions you've taken?
So I think there's several, and I think they've all been definitely within recent years. So I think my biggest, boldest action, which at times I've questioned, was it the right action, was finding the strength to leave my ex-husband. I think that was my biggest kind of boldest move, because although there was this massive sense of relief and release when it happened, it opened the gates of hell. It really did. So my ex-husband is like majorly narcissistic. I find psychology fascinating, and people's behaviors I find quite fascinating, but actually narcissism was something that I hadn't really come across. Whether it was because I was with somebody that was that way inclined, I don't know, but actually, so yeah, my biggest, boldest move was moving away from that relationship, but actually stepping through these gates into an almighty battle of just unpredictable, like that whole, yeah, literally, like I said, it was like stepping through the gates of hell. Like I faced a lot of battles once that had happened, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, just everything. And then I think actually still off the back of that, again, another bold move was right at that sort of, one part of me says, oh, the weakest part of me time in my life, but I don't think it actually was. I think it was actually one of the strongest parts. Although I felt weak with everything that was going on, I think I was actually probably at my strongest to be able to keep going. And again, I think that was a big sort of bold move, is the fact that every day I kept going. Every day I got out of bed. Every day I cared for my children. I kept on going. Although, don't get me wrong, you know, at times I did really struggle through, but I still was every day was taking a step forward. So I think that was, again, bold. And then at the same time, I decided to sit there and kind of go, I can do anything with my life right now, anything. What do I want to do? And actually that leads on to my other kind of career path, shall we say. So again, hand in hand with bushcraft and survival and the forest and the beauty of it, I have always stressed an interest in wanting to know how to manage it properly, how to look after it properly. So and I was always told that I couldn't do it, I wouldn't be able to do it, you know, too pathetic to do it, too fat to do it, whatever. And so I actually went on to do some courses to start my sort of journey in tree surgery, so that I can know how to care for the forest, how to ID trees properly, how to learn their scientific names, how to look after it properly. And so again, I think to go at my most vulnerable, weakest point in my life, when I was myself, but I was still finding myself, I decided, right, I'm going to do this career and I'm going to go and pay for my courses and I'm going to go and do my courses. And I stepped into an industry that is predominantly, you know, male dominated. And also a very tough industry. You've got to be fit, you've got to be quick, you've got to be, you know, fit and healthy and stuff. And I definitely wasn't. With my Crohn's and stuff, one of the worst things for it is stress and all that kind of thing. But again, I kept going. I kept sort of being brave, being bold and whatever. And it has got me, those bold actions have got me to where I am now. And I am, although it was a rough journey, it was my journey. It was meant to happen. And I'm really pleased it's happened, because it's made me realize how strong I am. And I think with all of us, which this may sort of answer another question, but all of us have this misconception that we look to others or other things for our strengths. So whether that's prescription drugs, sort of antidepressants or whatever, whether that's therapy, counseling, drugs, alcohol, we all look for this other thing to draw our strength from, when really we need to realize that we draw our own strength, we make our own strength. And I think from my point of view, I stopped looking for someone else to pull me out of my dark hole that I'd got into with everything that was going on. And again, sort of a bold action, I basically metaphorically slapped myself and said, get out of this hole. Stop looking for someone to rescue you. Stop looking for someone to give you that strength and power. You need to take control of that and find it yourself, because you are not going to get out of this without that. And yeah, okay, you could take antidepressants to make you feel better. You could go to therapy to make you feel better, but that's not a permanent fix. And I think, again, another thing with us as humans, with society, with culture, whatever, we're taught you'll heal. You get traumas in life, you'll heal from them. You'll this, you're that, you know, and then we feel that we failed ourselves when we're being taught, oh, you'll heal, go and have a nice bath, you'll heal, go and see the therapist, you'll heal. And you start your healing process. And there's so much of it about everywhere. And I really don't mean to insult anyone by saying what I'm saying, but my outlook on it is this. And I've been there myself where everyone's telling me, oh, you'll heal. This is how you heal. And I kept feeling like I was a failure all the time, because I was like, why am I not healing? Why am I hearing a song that's making me cry? Why am I seeing something that's triggering me off, making me cry? And it was only when I realized, hang on a minute, so we're similar to that of trees. Trees don't heal if they get cut into, whatever, they don't heal, they seal their wounds. And we are the same. We do not heal as humans, and it's been drilled into us. You've got to heal from this trauma, you've got to heal from this abuse you've been through, or whatever. We do not heal from it, we seal it, the same as a tree. But you know what, that's okay. So then, instead of feeling like excuse me, that you're failing because you haven't healed from this trauma, it makes it less pressure to go, do you know what, I've heard that song, I've cried, and I've moved on from it, and that's okay. I'm still sealing, I'm still moving forward in life. Because I think, similar to that of grief, when we're healing or sealing, whatever we want to call it, we learn to live with it, we never get over it as such. And I think it's being drilled into us that it's not acceptable to, you've got to feel better, you've got to stop crying about it, you've got to get over it, you've got to man up, you've got to this, you've got to that. Do you know what? No, you don't have to. You can, because that's perfectly normal. It's to feel rubbish when you hear a song, or to suddenly feel like you want to cry or scream or shout. And so I think that was another sort of bold action, that I suddenly realized that this is my power, this is my life, this is my strength, and I'm in control of this. I'm in control of everything. And all the stuff I've been through, I haven't healed from it. I'll never heal from it. You smash a plate on the floor, you try and glue it back together, it will never be the same. But instead we seal over those wounds, and we get stronger, and we carry on. And I think it's a bold move to finally realize that, because I think we all look for other escapes, other reasons as to, why am I not feeling better? Because you're not. It's okay. You don't have to feel better. Right now you feel like that, and you know what, in half an hour's time you'll feel different, in a week's time you'll feel different. But it doesn't mean that the way you're feeling now isn't or is acceptable. Just roll with it. Yeah.
One of the most powerful statements I heard when I was beginning my personal growth journey was, there's nothing to fix because you aren't broken. And like, to hear that, like, we're not fixing you, we're not coming in and like healing you, because you're not broken. Like, where you are right now, you're good. And you get to choose, do you want to keep growing? Do you want to move forward from here? And do you want to make a new choice? But you're not broken. And to hear that, and to be like, oh yeah, like, I've been told I'm broken, and that's what everybody believes, we're broken. And it's so hard to live into, like, I got to fix myself because I'm broken. But when you are able to realize, I'm not broken, so there's nothing here that needs to be fixed, but I can choose to be better. I can choose to be more. I can choose to grow and add. And that was such a powerful statement for me to hear. So
yeah. And the other thing that you said that, we've talked about a lot on this, the show, is like, no one's coming to save you. Right. So, you say it was the weakest point, but I truly believe that that was one of your stronger points, because you realized that you got to design and create your own life from that point. Right. So you took those actions despite, what you were going through, what you were feeling, how you were feeling. You took that strength and took the actions to create and design your life that you have now. And I think that's a huge point of strength for you and for anyone listening that takes their life into their own hands like that. So yeah.
And I think it's a massive bold move for anyone when they suddenly realize that the power and the strength that they actually hold in themselves to make those decisions and to grow in life and carry on through their journey and that kind of thing. And I think it's great that it's getting out there, it's being more acceptable, that there is no fixing us. We're not broken. We just are the way we are, and we deal with it and we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that brings me back to your survivor versus thriver too.
Mm-hmm.
Like survivor is a victim state. Survivor is this happened to me. All these things happened to me. Whereas thriver is this happened and now I'm going to take my life into my hands and I am going to choose my journey. So yeah, I like how you're rewriting that term too, because going from that victim of this happened to me to no, I'm a thriver. I'm going to choose. This is my journey. This is
Yeah.
my story. Yeah.
Yeah, I hated it. I hated that, I had therapy, I had and I had support from a domestic violence charity, and that was the term they kept throwing at me, was victim, victim, victim. And I was like, do you know what? When you're feeling weak and you're feeling low and you're feeling, that you've left your husband, was that the right move? You're letting your family down, you're letting your kids down, you're letting everybody down, you're weak. To have someone then keep telling you you're a victim doesn't give you that strength. It really doesn't. And that's why, sort of we didn't survive. We thrived in our situation because we had to. And I do think that is a much stronger statement. It's a much stronger sort of word to use, which is why I kind of went with that. And I push that now, saying, you're thriving, man. You're whatever situation, hard situation you are facing, if you're getting through it, you're thriving. And I think, yeah, that's a major thing that we all need to kind of hear sometimes.
Was there a like pivotal moment that you would share with us that actually got you to take that action to leave your relationship? Is there like a straw that broke the camel's back, or was it a thought process? Like, what was it in you that made you take that action?
To be honest with you, the sort of the day that I decided enough was enough with my ex-husband kind of thing. Well, it'd been going on, I think, with any kind of toxic relationship, you go through various things like your trauma bonding, your love bombing, and all that kind of stuff that I was quite subject to. And then I was kind of in so deep that I felt like I couldn't escape. I couldn't get out, even if I was subject to financial abuse, all sorts of stuff. So I felt that I was in this thing and I could not get out. And then we moved back close to my parents, which was his biggest mistake, but my biggest gain. And actually it happened, there was no other way we could do it. He basically had messed up so badly with something that we had to go back to my folks. And I think that just caught him off guard. And so it kind of, I was finding that I was getting these little bits of strength, little bits of power back. And I was kind of constantly being reminded every day of what's not right. This isn't right. This shouldn't happen, and stuff like that. And actually, I lost a lot of friends and family over the various years, apart from one friend who stuck by me through the whole thing. And we argued and we absolutely clashed heads. And at times we were, couldn't stand each other because I wouldn't listen to what she was saying. She wouldn't, but she couldn't understand why I wasn't understanding it. And we got quite frustrated, but do you know what? She never ever gave up on me. And actually she was a big part of my journey, because I used to see her every morning on the school run. And I always remember the day before, I woke up and I'd had a really good week where I'd had lots of friends, lots of family, all of a sudden had reappeared, and I was making lots of friends. And where we'd lived in this new house, I had a great neighbor who I've still got now, who I love dearly, and the little old lady that used to own the big house down the road, and her family. And I just built up, all of a sudden I'd like gravitated this great support group around me without even knowing. And I just remember waking up one morning having the power to do it and going, do you know what? I can't do this anymore. And then I remember don't get me wrong, I was in a mess. I just wasn't right. And I remember sort of going to the school, and all of it's a blur. I just remember seeing my friend that didn't give up on me. And she was sat in the school car park in her car because she was actually on the phone. And because she was on the phone, the children were at preschool. I went and got her little boy because the doors were open, to take them in, and we're really good friends. So I just kind of went over to the car, just in a natural, but in my sort of fuzzed state of mind, to get her son. And she took one look at me and she went, wait there, sort of thing. And I said, no, let me take the children in. And I took the children in. I remember coming back out and she'd got off the phone. And I just broke down. I didn't have to say anything. And she just knew that I was done. I couldn't do this anymore. And she basically just gave me a lot of power as well, to kind of encouragement so no, she didn't give me power. She gave me encouragement to realize my power and my capability. And then it was just it. I just thought, no, do you know what? I'm not stuck here. I don't have to do this. And that was that kind of pivotal moment, that, or should we say, that push, that encouragement off that person to kind of, you've got deep water underneath you and they give you a little push to say, you can swim, so go, kind of thing. And that's what she did. And then all of a sudden, it was like I had a standing ovation of friends, family, neighbors, people that I hardly knew. All of a sudden, all of these people just appeared. And all of these people had been seeing what was going on and seeing me, and they loved me dearly. They loved my kid, still do, dearly. And they hated him for what he was and what he did. And it was just all of a sudden, it was like a transfer in energy, like his energy was just gone, taken by, he was out of control. And all these people just gravitated to me, into my life, and just kept giving me this power, this energy to get me through, and to make me realize that I could do this, I can do this. But then obviously you have your drops as well, when everybody's gone home to their families, and you are, in my case, I was in the house by myself for the first time in a very long time with 3 small children, panicking like anything, and going through the emotions and have I done the right thing? And it's crazy, because even though it is a toxic person that has been very nasty to you, there was points where you loved that person. And so you're toying with your head and your heart, and you're questioning your actions, and you're not knowing whether you've done the right thing. But every day something would make me realize, no, you have done the right thing. And every day I'd keep taking that step forward. So yeah, I think it just, I don't know, just that pivotal moment, I think, was realizing that I wasn't alone, and that I had support, and that support was always going to be there for me. I just needed to let it in as such. And I wasn't alone, and I wasn't going through this on my own, and I didn't have to go through this on my own, and I had all the help. And I think that's what kind of got me through that bit. And although finding my own power and strength and stuff, people can't be with you 24/7, but when people were, they were great. The support I had was unreal, from family and friends of friends. And actually I found, which I think is similar with friendship groups and stuff, when the people you associate yourself with, and the people you kind of hang around with, shall we say, almost make you the person that you are. And I've found that since taking that sort of toxic bit out of my life, shall we say, I've just had all this like great energy, great vibes, great people, great opportunities just absolutely gravitate towards me, like I'm a magnet to it. And every time that happens, that just gives you more kind of strength to go, I can do this, I've done this, I'm doing this, kind of thing. And it, from my point of view, it then gave me that strength to go, you know what, I got through that because I'm a very, very strong person, but also because I had that bits of and bobs of help and stuff. I need to help others because others can do it too. And I think that's another massive drive of mine, is sort of making people realize that you do have the power, you do have the strength, so pull it, like use it, because it's there for you. And you know what, when you're lacking in it, use that support group, because they'll give it back to you, kind of thing. They'll top it up, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with having a pirate crew, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no one single captain that can, sail the ship and, pirate himself or
Yeah,
herself,
well, I
right?
think like in our lives, we're the captain of our ship,
Mhm.
and then the support and the people that we surround ourselves with are our crew, and it's how that affects how well our ship sails, doesn't it? Because if we've got a rubbish crew, if we've got people that are trying to, throw us overboard or whatever to take over, we're not going to sail very well. But having that great group around you to make you realize you can sort of be the captain of that ship and you can sail through it as such.
I'm gonna let that soak in. Like that was good. That was really good.
So where can our listeners go to find out more about you and what you're
So
doing?
I use Instagram mainly, and my current sort of Instagram profile is the shooting mum, because again, shooting is something that I'm quite passionate about, and it's a male dominated industry, so although now it's really coming out more for women, which is great. So yeah, and I wanted to make people realize that you can do both. You can be a mum. You don't have to be that typical sort of what society wants us to be, that homemaker, that mum at home that's looking all pretty and got a lovely clean car, and she takes the children to school and they're all immaculate, because that's definitely not me. So yeah, so my Instagram is the shooting mum, and the business page is Ragnarok Wild Scales. And as we kind of build up on other bits, so the woodland school and stuff, for obvious reasons, because it's children, there won't be sort of pictures of sort of us as a group, but there'll be pictures of what we do and what we create and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where people can kind of find me and follow my journey, and actually it's an open profile, so anyone that feels they need support or needs a bit of encouragement, is going through that journey or is stuck in that hole of or whatever, I think it's good to find somebody that has been through it to help you through, to make you realize. So that's one thing I always kind of talk about on my page and stuff, is to say, talk to people, talk to me. I will listen always, no judgments. I'm always because I've been through it myself. And I think that's one of the biggest things in society, is that it's that taboo, that judgment, that, oh God, I can't say that because I might upset somebody. And with me, they won't, because I've been there, I've done that, I've got through it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, how would you recommend that our listeners start on their very own pirate journey and captain their ship?
I think life is short. Life is seriously short, and it's your life. And I think people have to realize that it is your life. Don't say can't, don't make excuses. There is always a way. Like, you always have a choice. And I think there's actually a sort of little write-up and a picture on my Instagram that basically says that. And it says about how, in fact, I'm going to read it. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, of course.
But and I sort of live by this, and I would say this to anyone. So yeah, it basically goes, it's never too late or too early to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. Stop whenever you want. You can change or you can stay the same. There are no rules to this thing that we call life. We can make the best or the worst of it. I hope you see beautiful things. I hope you feel things that you've never felt before. I hope you meet people with a different point of view, and I hope you live a life you're proud of. If you find that you're not, I hope you have the courage to start all over again. And I think that is one of the key things in people's lives, regardless of your circumstance. You have the ability to change it. So do it. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, you've got to be happy. And I think, yeah, like, you can change it, you can take control. And actually I wrote that sort of little thing with a picture, and I remember when I did it, and that was probably at one of my pivotal points in my journey, where I just went, do you know what, like, I want to share this with other people, because people need to realize that. And my goodness, when you take that left turn, what a release it is. What, it's so refreshing, it's so great to go, I've made that change and I've done it. And yeah, I would really encourage anyone to, yeah, go for it, because life's too short. It really is.
And our last and most important question, do you know any pirate jokes?
I do.
Let's hear it.
Like, it doesn't matter what joke it is, they're always awful. What did the sea say to the pirate? Nothing, it just waved. So bad.
So
but you've got to
good.
have you've got to finish on a good pirate joke.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wonder, eventually we're going to run out.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah, you're going to have to come up with sort of other boat. Well, I suppose there's, once you've finished kind of exercising all the pirate jokes, you've got the jokes about wood, planks, the sea, the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, we could treasure. It could extend to quite a few others.
Sailing jokes. I don't know anything about the sea. We'll have to expand our repertoire eventually.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been so nice chatting with you, Chloe, and getting to know you and hearing more about your story. So thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.